Hello, and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in work and in life and simplify them. And friends, I like to talk about something, doing the thing, getting things done in life. And you know what? The truth is, we're human. And sometimes, now and again, it's really hard, like to get the really important things, the things that matter done. And so I go deep into this topic and talk about and simplify how to stop procrastinating and get it done. My special guest today, her name is Sam Bennett. She's the author of Get It Done, Start Right Where You Are, and her latest book, The 15-Minute Method, The Surprisingly Simple Art of Getting It Done. She's a writer, a speaker, an actor, and a creativity and productivity specialist. She's the founder of therealsambennett.com, which is a company committed to helping overwhelmed creatives and frustrated overthinkers get unstuck. She's also, no big deal, a very popular course instructor on LinkedIn Learning with over 1 million class participants worldwide. So I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Sam Bennett. Hey, Sam.
Hey, Mary. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody.
I am so pleased you're here. And, over here at the Simplifiers, the thing that we talk about is doing the thing, whatever that thing is that, and I really loved reading your book. I'm just going to say it right out the gate. The 15-Minute Method, excellent book, very quick read, but also it gets to the heart of why we stumble. And so let's talk about that. Now, your solution to overwhelm and procrastination is this 15-minute method. What is it and how does it work?
Yes. Yes. First of all, yes to just doing the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the 15-minute method, here it is. Get a pen. Everybody ready? Um, I would like you to experiment with spending 15 minutes a day, every single day, on something that matters to you. That's it. That's the whole thing. You can go home now. No.
There it is. Episode over. Done.
That's it. Episode done. Uh, and here's what I mean by that. So we know productivity is not about getting more done. It's about getting more of what matters done.
Yeah.
And a happy life is not necessarily about our achievements. It's about the things we achieve that matter to us.
And corporate America surely will make you think the otherwise. Oh, no, no, no. You need the gold star. You need 8 billion trophies on your wall. You need, do, right?
Right.
And that's where we get stuck. Overwhelm.
Exactly. And it's interesting about corporate America. I actually have a plan for world domination that involves them. So maybe we can talk about that in a minute.
Yes.
Um, so really the whole idea with the 15-minute method is, you tell me what's important to you.
Mm.
Because I notice we get everything done for everybody else all day, and the things that you know would really make a difference to your spirit, to your heart, to your body, to your family, to your community, doesn't even make it on the list.
Mm. And then, it's interesting when you were talking about like different ideas of what you could do in 15 minutes per day. It kind of clicked in my brain because one of the ideas was you wrote this book using the 15-minute method, 15 minutes a day, 250 words a day, roughly 6 months later, you got a book, right?
Yeah. Yeah. In 15 minutes, you can write about 250 words. In 200 and something days, that's 50,000 words. That's a book.
Yeah,
That's
Sam,
longer than my book.
that like poked me in the rear because I was like, no, I've been talking about writing a book for years and saying that I don't have the time for it. And there are a ton of excuses, and we'll get into that in a second. But I wanted to read something from your book, if you don't mind, that really was very poignant for me as well. So you say this on page 4. The 100-hour rule, popularized by psychologist Andres Erickson, says that 100 hours of deliberate practice will make you better than 95% of the world's population at your chosen discipline. Working for 15 minutes a day, you could potentially become world class at whatever it is you want to do in only 400 days or just over a year. Even if you don't want to be the best at something, it's reassuring to know that you could substantially improve in such a short amount of time. I mean, wow. And I think that sometimes we think about all the things on our to-do list and we go, oh, I have to do this for my kids. I have to do this for my boss. I have to do this for this and this, da, 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 da. That your actual own priorities get to the very bottom of the list. And that's where we get stuck is we go, oh, how could I possibly carve out 15 minutes for myself? And then we do the exact opposite. We get the kids to bed. It's 10:30 at night. We're exhausted. And so we doom scroll in sort of
Yep.
like this revenge rage kind of way of like, this is my time. But it's not actually replenishing us. It's not filling our cup. And it's certainly not doing 15 minutes of things that give me joy, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I tell you, the unspoken half sentence felt like I hear a lot is this, I can't, I have stuff to do. All these people are counting on me. I can't possibly take even 15 minutes self. That would be selfish, right? That's the underlying match somehow. That would be selfish. And I really want to turn that upside down because it's not real.
Yeah.
What's real is you walking around exhausted, stressed out, underslept, and with no humor, and the rest of us have to deal with you like that. That is selfish behavior. That is an impotent. That is a burden on society.
Gosh.
You going up calm, rested, creative, fulfilled, maybe a little tickled, you have a little joy happening in your life. Love that version of you. You're calmer, you're less reactive, you're a better listener. You can navigate the Trader Joe's parking lot like it's nothing. Like, you are better and you make us better. And that's generosity. That is true generosity.
I love that. And I appreciate the reframe because a lot of times we look at it from a place of scarcity. But the reality is, if we can't carve out 15 minutes of 1 hour in a 24-hour day, there's something seriously wrong, like genuinely seriously wrong with our overscheduled, super busy, I'm putting air quotes up,
Right?
life, and that's just a shame. It's a shame that is the reality of what we believe is normal and expected behavior, because it's not true.
Right. Exactly.
So let's talk about some of the typical excuses we tell ourselves that keep us from getting stuff done, and how do we squash them? Because you had this great little tip about a 90-second doodle. Tell us about that.
This is my favorite. I've been doing this for years and I keep getting astonished at how helpful it is to me as a tool, me and for everybody else. Let's do it. Let's do it together, shall we? Because it'll really only take seconds. I want you to think about a situation in your life in which you feel frustrated, stuck, overwhelmed, pissed, resentful, whatever. Some
Check,
just
check,
like
check. Yep. Uh-huh.
check, right.
Got it.
Yes, it could be all of those things. So yeah, some situation where you're just like, don't like it. And go ahead and just make a doodle of what that feeling is like. We are not creating art. No one is ever going to do this. Stick figures and weird shapes are fine. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody, but just go ahead and, draw what it feels like, right? Um, and just give yourself another second to maybe embellish a little bit. Good. Now, that would be a second. Usually I make people do it for a full 90 seconds, but you probably have something down there. And now just take a look at it. Like let it sing for you. Because it's one thing to say, I'm frustrated at work, I'm annoyed with my boss, I'm irritated with my spouse, I'm anxious about me. Like what yes, yes. But look at the doodle. I just drew like a boulder the size of a house and me as a little stick figure underneath the witch and the Wizard of Oz.
Aw.
Like this boulder has landed on me and I am completely smushed.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives me a very specific insight. It's like it allows me to acknowledge it's like, wow, this is not just hard what's happening in my life right now. This is crushing me.
Yeah, it's heavy.
It's heavy. it's hard. I feel I'm not just like overwhelmed. I'm actually paralyzed. I'm actually pinned. Like, be real with what's actually happening, right? And stop saying, like, oh, I'm frustrated. And what you really mean is, I am furious,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I feel, oh, there's a lot going on. I feel like a 97,000 pound boulder is on me all the time.
And I imagine by doing this exercise, you're defining it, you're giving it words, and you're really identifying it because and acknowledging. Because I think a lot of times, especially for super busy people, raise your hand if this resonates. You just
Mm,
keep going. You go, 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 go. Like, I don't have time to think about this. Sucks. It's a not a great situation, but I got to keep going because I got soccer practice at 5 o'clock or
right,
whatever. Right.
right, right, right.
And we never stop and get off the hamster wheel and actually acknowledge how we're feeling and letting our inner self, be seen and heard and go, oh, well, yeah, of course you feel paralyzed and stuck and overwhelmed. And then, then I don't know, for me at least, the second I acknowledge it, it almost is like it diffuses some of the energy it has. The weight becomes less because I've put it out
Because
into the world.
because feeling just want to be felt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feelings just want to be felt. All feelings want. Once a feeling knows it's been felt, it can get promoted and get another better job.
Hmm.
As opposed to that, like, I'll just keep moving and try not to think about it because I'm afraid it's going to be painful. Well, those feelings go down into the basement and lift weights,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So and feeling your feelings, like, doesn't mean you're going to burst into tears in the car. It doesn't mean you're going to lose your shit. It doesn't mean you're going to start raving and screaming at people. It might. And you could, and you have my permission, especially if you who are on yellers and criers. You might want to give it a try sometime. Just freak
Yeah.
everybody out. But also, there's a step two to this 90-second doodle, which is go ahead and take a 90 seconds and draw how you would like it to feel,
Yeah.
right? Draw how you would like it to feel. Like, okay, so if you could do it your way, if you have a magic wand, what would it feel like? What would it look like? And now I'm just drawing, oh, this is interesting. It's that same boulder, but I'm standing on top of it.
Mm. Yeah.
It also looks a little like a pumpkin and a little like a spaceship.
James and the Giant Peach.
I would like my boulder to turn into a pumpkin spaceship.
Yeah. But it sounds so silly, and so simple, but I think sometimes the best solutions are the simplest ones that break
It's
you out of that cycle of, never enough and oh, I just got to push harder. I got to do more. And
mm,
which hey, hasn't really worked well for you up to this point. Maybe try something different, right?
well, it's worked as well as it's worked.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all are doing great. You're amazing. You're here. You have families. You have lives left. It's well done. Check, check. And this constant desire, can I do better? Can I be better? Can I, push harder? Can I squeeze more? Like, is that system working for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my
And
question.
and so some of the excuses that you wrote out and also gave some solutions to, again, raise your hand if you've ever found yourself saying this as an excuse as to why you don't do the thing. Quote, I don't know how to do that. What if people see me fail? It feels weird to be a beginner. What if it's a waste of time? I don't want to start and then not finish. And I don't have time for that now. I mean, I have said all of those tick, tick, tick at
Yeah.
different stages of my life for different challenges or goals that I've wanted and just for whatever reason never quite got there. And so I guess there's just a human moment of acknowledging that as well, is that we've all been there before, right?
Absolutely. You are, I guess you're doing great. You are having the human experience. No one out there feels better than you do.
Yeah.
Everyone is struggling. Everyone is carrying invisible burdens all the time, you know, and you have more power. And we tend to spend a lot of time thinking about all we don't have any control over, and not nearly enough putting our hands on the stuff we do have control over. And one of the things you have control over is taking a look at these chronic excuses, because this is my problem. It's not so much, you know, it's not like saying, I don't know. I'm going to make some calls.
Yeah. I'm going to do
I
some
don't,
research.
I'm going to do 15 minutes of research a day for the next 5 days and see what I learn. I don't know how to do that. I'm just going to dive in, see what happens. See if I can, I'm telling you, half of the success I've had in my life is because I didn't know it wasn't supposed to be that way.
Hmm.
I didn't know it was supposed to be hard, and I didn't know you weren't supposed to do it. So I just did it the way it made sense to me. Everybody did, what? You're amazing. I'm like, oh, thank you. was my plan all along, was to be amazing. So I ask, so if recurring excuses, I really want you to take 15 minutes, take this opportunity to be excruciatingly honest with yourself,
Yeah.
you know, and really keep flowing the thought, what if I do this and fail? Oh, good question. What if you do this and fail?
Hmm.
Have you done other things and failed before? Is there really such a thing as failure? How do you know if you failed? We've all had the things that we thought at the time, oh, this is terrible. This is the worst thing. And then 10 years later, we're like, you know what? That was actually the best thing that could have happened.
Hmm.
So again, maybe we could start to experiment a little bit.
Yeah, I love the story that you shared in your book about you're at some very like hit high intensity workout class and you're like, I'm about to die, like literally
Yeah,
die.
totally.
And the fitness instructor comes over to you and says, does it hurt or is it just hard? And in that moment, you were like, well, actually, it's not that it hurts, it's just hard. And when it's hard, you just got to keep going because you're building a muscle, you're building your endurance in order to become better and better over time, right?
I think that is such a valuable question. I was so thrilled when she said that I was old. I was hot and sweaty and crying. When she's, does it hurt or is it just hard? That's such an important distinction. If it hurts, that is a sign that something is wrong. If it hurts, it is time to stop,
Yes.
whatever it is, and take care of that pain because that pain is an important signal, whether it's emotional or psychic or physical or whatever. If it hurts, if it's just hard, yay. Congratulations. Welcome to the limits of what you've known up to now. And I really feel like one of the excuses you talked about, like, oh, it's uncomfortable to be a beginner,
Yeah.
especially for those of us in leadership capacities, which start all parents, but also everybody else. Um, I really want to invite you into spending your 15 minutes a day on something at which you are a total beginner.
Yeah.
I think it is really valuable for you to put yourself in the position in which you're not the smartest person in the room. You are not better than everybody else. You are in the front row with your hand raised, little apple polisher. You're struggling along the back, barely keep. That's good for us. It's good to get your ego smacked down like that. It's good to notice how you react when you're under that kind of stress.
Yes.
It's good to know what your go-to problem solving, tools are and where you consistently psych yourself out. Like I used to do a lot of heavy duty fitness training and weightlifting, and I was terrible at most of those burpees. I looked like a drunken panda, like getting up and down. It was terrible, but I loved it. Because it was hard, and I loved it because I was pushing myself every single time, and it reminded me, like, Sam, this is how your client will.
Yeah.
This is how you hang on to this feeling. So yeah, you're wondering like, well, what would I spend my 15 minutes on? Try doing it either on something you're great at and aren't doing enough of, or try doing something that you're terrible at, but might
Yes.
really grow you as a person to just try it.
Yeah, like picking up a harmonica or guitar or a pogo stick. I don't know,
Or
like
belly dancing, or financial investments, or thing
yes,
Danish. I don't know.
doing a
You
LinkedIn
what?
learning on money management. Just imagine. Yeah.
Just imagine, right? And it's 15 minutes. You never have to do it again, but
Yeah.
experiment. Stop dieting ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious, how does this 15-minute method help those who may have ADHD or a little bit neurospicy or, just highly creative people, especially when they're dealing with perfectionism? Because I feel like that's a huge barrier to helping us get stuff done.
Yeah. Uh, So I've got a thing that I sell. It's on my website. It's called the Daily Practicum, and it's a subscription thing. People pay for it. And every weekday at 12 noon Eastern, we log into the Zoom, say hello, set the timer for 15 minutes. 15 minutes later, timer goes off. We say, well done. And I'm telling you, a screen full of people look up at me with this like post-orgasmic glow on their face. They're like, oh my God, I did it. I called that person that I'd been putting off for 6 weeks. I've been putting off calling that person.
Yeah.
It's been hard. I drew on it last night. It's been bothering me so much. I cleared this much of my closet. I did this much of a watercolor painting. I sat in the garden with the sunrise. Like it's amazing. And it's especially amazing for the ADD, ADHD, ADHD, highly creative, highly sensitive, highly all the things, neurospicy of it all. Um, it's sometimes you'll hear it called body doubling, sometimes you'll hear it called parallel play.
Mm.
I always think of it as just peer pressure. We're tribal animals. We're designed to live in a group. We best in a group. We learn best in a group. We learn best by model. I see you do it, and that makes me know I can do it.
Yeah.
So this little daily practicum, it's on your calendar. That can make a difference. It's only 15 minutes. That can make a difference. There's going to be other people there. And over time, they come to know you and want to say hi and find out how you're doing. There's a little accountability there. Again, a little positive peer pressure. Mommy's watching. Mommy sees you. I'm a mommy sees you person. I'm like, does mommy see me? Can I get a gold, please? Yes, you can. You can get a gold star. Um, and some of the people in the practicum are there every single time, won't miss it. Other people are there occasionally, and some people never show up in person, but just knowing that it's happening
Yeah.
and having it on their schedule and having put down, it's not very expensive, but having put down a little bit of money on it, like keeps them good.
Yeah.
So there's all these little tricks that we can do to help support ourselves to do the things that may only matter to you. Because it's hard. Like when there's no quarterly review, how you're not going, it can be
Yeah.
hard to stay motivated.
Well, and I think about people that work from home and maybe don't have peers in person, face to
Yeah.
face, every day. And you can get a little bit isolating. I think humans are wired to live in community, to have accountability from that community and to have a sense of belonging. So I think it's incredibly smart that you offer this, because no one likes to not do the thing when other people are watching. Like it's easy to
Mhm.
do it, like to not do it when no one's noticing and there's no real consequence. But when other people are involved in the plan, boy, howdy, that is a motivator for me.
Exactly. And so here now we've gotten to my world domination. So I've had every job in the world. I've delivered flowers. I've rehabbed houses in historic West Adams district in Los Angeles. I was a white river guide, like you name it. I've done it, except I've never had a job in corporate America.
Mm.
So you all are going to have to be my spies and try this and let me know if it works. But here's my fantasy. I keep reading about how 77% of
Yep.
employees are disengaged. 77%?
Yeah. Crazy. Three quarters.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if 77% of your friends disengaged you? If 70% of your money went away? That's a lot.
Yeah.
And
It's
it
huge.
strikes me that that is a very expensive problem to have three of the people in the building or in the department not really giving a crap about what's going on. So here's my idea. Big corporation says, hey, you know what? From 4:15 to 4:30 or from 9:45 a.m. to 10 a.m. That's your time. That is your time to do your thing. Schedule meetings. Don't clear out your email box. Don't make your dentist appointment. This is not about your to-do list. This is just about who you are as a person and what you like to do. If it has to do with work, fine. If it doesn't, fine. It's 15 minutes. It's a cost-free benefit, right? I mean, they're already dicking around for minutes a day somewhere. So like
It's true.
just sort of say like, okay, here we go. Now, so that alone, I just think is a very lovely humanizing thing for a business to say, hey, we've noticed that you are a person with a life out of this building, and we give you 15 minutes to just be you for a minute. I think that's delightful. But here's the kicker. study after study show that when you let people bring more of their whole self to work, when you remind them more of their full selves, they will do better work. They will have better ideas, be better problem solvers. They will be more creative. If we're sitting there in the team meeting and I say, "Hi, I'm from sales," whatever. If I say, "Hi, I'm Sam from sales, and I spent my 15 minutes today working on this needlepoint project that was for a newborn baby who's just about to graduate from high school, so I'm pretty sure I get it done." Right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, well, now I reminded myself about my own crafting ability, love of color and thread and textiles and all that. But also, down at the table is that Debbie person that I've never really gotten along with. We're a little oil and water, the two of us. But all of a sudden now she's saying, "Oh, I'm Debbie from accounting. I'm Debbie from accounting, and I do counted cross stitch." Wait a minute. We're needlework friend? And now Debbie and I have a whole nother thing to talk about and a whole nother way to connect with each other. And we can compare embroidery floss, whatever. And you know what we call that? Engagement.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when people are engaged with each other, more things get done better.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And, I think that corporate America, and I have been inside of it and I've seen it face to face, is so obsessed with hitting the bottom line, hitting revenue numbers,
Yeah.
cutting costs, productivity at all costs. And I think that what we're saying is, again, reframe things, focus on human connection, and then that will output the engagement, which outputs the productivity, which outputs the revenue goals and all of that. So I
That's
think that
exactly
sometimes they get it wrong. They get it absolutely opposite. And really it's the human touch. That's the important part first.
exactly. I mean, I'm a business owner myself. I'm not saying make a summer camp where we all just sit around and do nothing. That's not what I'm of course. I mean, that sounds like fun and maybe we should do that. But that's not what work is about. I understand work is work. Work needs to get done. But this idea of like, well, if just grind harder,
Mm-hmm. Never works. It never
a
works.
child will tell you that you're going to reach the point of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
You know, a 10-year-old can look at that system and go, well, that doesn't make any sense. You need lunch.
Yeah.
You need rest.
Yeah.
You need graham crackers and a little nap on your whoopee, and then come back to work. Like you need a siesta in the afternoon. You need to stretch. You need to stand up once every 90 minutes. You need 15 minutes of enforced freedom without looking at your phone.
Yeah.
Try that.
Yeah. And, I appreciate this because I think that there's another concept you talked about in your book called the alchemy of effort and
Mm.
why it creates and helps us create momentum. Talk to me about that as well and how that leads into what we've just been talking about.
Yeah. And you mentioned perfectionism before, which is another word that I hear a lot. And I think that is like umbrella start to mean a lot of things. We shove a
Sure.
lot of things under the tent of perfectionism. And is it just me? Tell me if you, I feel like there's a little tiny bit of self-praise in perfectionism.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's just that my standards are so high.
And I
Like,
just have to get it right.
it must be so special. I can only do the specialist of special things,
All right, now
right?
Sam, back off. You're getting a little close to home here. Just kidding.
Well, I wouldn't. I have that tape in my head too. And, we've got the study in the photography class where the class gets divided into two. One half of the class gets told, take the best possible photographs. The other half of the class gets told, take the most possible photographs. Guess who does better, right? So this outward thing, we've we get these ideas. We get these ideas. First of all, you get ideas. That's so wonderful. Your creativity never abandoned you, not once. You're just this wonderful, nonstop fountain of ideas. It's a beautiful thing. It's not a character defect.
Hmm.
Uh, you have an idea, and some of you see it, some of you just know it, but it comes like boom, full and complete. It's like redo the whole house. Boom. Ah, it's so beautiful. But then you're immediately overwhelmed. Like, where would you even start? And and again, just to make a little space in this moment, as long as it stays inside your head, it does stay perfect. The minute you start to actually put pen to paper, start talking about it, start making it happen. Then it comes into the real life, and that's different. I've heard um, women who've had children say, I had this idea of who the baby was in my mind, and then Stella was born, and she was Delilah. It was
Mm-hmm.
not the child that was in my mind, and I had to let the child in my mind go
Mm-hmm.
in favor of this real person, this baby named Delilah. And I think in that example, we can see, okay, I understand there's a fantasy you're going to have to live, but how much more wonderful to have actual Delilah than to just have this fantasy version. And you all are doing the same thing with your creative projects.
Yeah.
You've got this beautiful, perfect thing inside your head, but it can't have an effect on the world. It's just sitting in there in this little hermetically sealed box. So you let your work out into the world, first just from your head down to a piece of paper or onto a screen or a canvas or a whatever it is, dirt, uh, raising lizards. I don't know what you're doing. Um, and it changes you, right? You're different because it's a real thing in the world. And maybe you even show it to someone else and they have a reaction to it. And it's probably different than your reaction to it. It may be a reaction that you never even expected. Well, now they are changed. The thing is changed. You are changed. The changed. They are changed. The thing is changed, right? So we get this like Moebius strip, sort of this infinity symbol. That's alchemy. It's literally turning iron into gold.
Yeah.
It turns ideas into phenomena. It turns a good idea inside of your mind in, 15-minute method. Oh, that sounds like a good idea. Into, you know what? I'm going to start texting my niece every day. I'm going to take my 15 minutes to try to think of something that would not annoy a 14-year-old girl, which is probably everything. Uh, and just text her every day to let her know that I'm here and I love her.
Yeah. It's simple.
That's alchemical.
Yeah.
And so, like, well, kids say, I don't know what to say to her. I don't know how to talk to her. She's 14. La, they're different than we were. No, they're not. They're exactly the same as you were.
Yeah. And, it's interesting when I read this piece, it made me think of something that I've done recently. So everybody knows, obviously, there's this podcast, 350 interviews so far in the last 7
Amazing.
season, which is
Well done,
wild.
you. Well
Wild,
done.
right? But a couple of years ago, I just had this intuitive thought and idea, creative idea bubbling up. And I said, you know what I really want to do? So I want to do episodes that are like guided visualizations where I lead people through breathing exercises and then they close their eyes and they're focused on my voice, but deeply focused on their deep inner wisdom. And I just guide them through a visualization. And it's like, what if we did that? And, of course, your stinking thinking goes in and goes, well, nobody's going to listen to that. That's so dumb. That's so off what you're doing with everything else. Like, and then, the little voice, the deep little voice is like, just do it. Just do it. See what happens. We've made about 20 of those so far. And I tell you, those are my favorite types of creative content to create because 9 times out of 10, the guided visualization, whatever it is, the most recent one we did last week was how to be more patient is
Mm.
things that I need for myself. So very selfishly, I'm writing my own prescription and taking my own medicine and healing my own things along the way. But also hearing from people from literally all over the world that are like,
Yes.
those are my favorite episodes. That really helped me that day. I was feeling really low. I turned on that episode, changed my entire outlook. And it's like, well, that's it. That if that hadn't existed, if I had listened to the stinking thinking voice and it never got created, that person would have never it got to experience a different outlook. And what a shame.
And that's gold, right?
Mm,
That's alchemy. That's magic. You have a little idea, you put it out into the world without stifling it too much.
yeah.
And y'all, those downloads that you get, like where you're like, I don't know why, I just have this whole idea for a 3-volume novel set in ancient Greece, and I don't even know anything about ancient Greece. Yeah, great. Knock yourself out. Go do it. That's your download. It came especially for you. Start writing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why. I just suddenly wanted to go see the butterflies in Oaxaca. Great. Buy a ticket. That's your
Yes.
download. Go.
Yeah.
Right. Um, so don't refuse to download. If nothing else, make sure you capture it. You don't have to do it, but make sure you capture it. Um, and yes, and then you let it out of the house and go like, I don't know but like this idea that there's some rules, there's
No.
some way to succeed, there's some way to be a good parent or a good teacher or a good friend or a good employee. No, there's just your way. And I don't think any of us want to be uh, haunting our own memorial service, which we totally will, because we got to see what everybody's wearing, right? Uh, and overhear a lot of that, well, he was very well behaved.
Yeah.
She never did it wrong.
Yeah.
Her tile grout was very, very clean. That's not what we want to hear.
No, we want to
We want
live
to hear
an incredible, full, beautiful, brilliant life where we're impacting others and, finding joy in the little things, right?
exactly, exactly. And it's helpful to me, honestly, like, what do you really, when you start stressing yourself out about, like, well, they think, and well, I've got to, and everybody says, and it's got to be like, is that really what you want to teach your children? That it's perfect or it's not worth doing at all? That you've got to work as hard as you possibly can all the time?
Yeah, no.
Like, that's not what you want to teach your children. That's not what you want them saying to their great grandchildren. You know, I get it. There's stuff we got to be real.
Yeah. And it again comes back to what you said at the very beginning. It's never about doing more. It's about doing more of what matters.
That's right.
And when I read in the book that you have been suffering from long COVID, and there are others out there that are now starting to really see that chronic fatigue and, just not having the energy that they had a few years ago. How does this advice particularly help them and you to get things done?
Yeah. So shout out to my long haul brothers and sisters out there
Woof.
and to everyone with a long-term, so far incurable and mostly invisible illness.
Woof.
Stay strong.
Gosh.
Um, uh, and like I said, everyone is carrying around invisible bowling balls. Everybody's dealing with something. The the fatigue thing is I've I mean, again, my first book was called Get It Done. Like, I've been the sheer force of will, list maker, do it, do it, do it person for my entire life. And there have been days in the last couple of years where not only could I not get bed, but rolling over in bed seemed like a lot. Where I'm so fatigued, I can't watch television. How tired do you have to be to not? Television's stupid. Like, anybody can, no, it's too much for me. Too much for me. It exhausts. Like, I can't read. I'm like, what? I can't read. How is that possible? I've always read 10 books a week if I can. Like, what do you mean I can't read? So I just want to say, welcome to life, right? Surprise, plot twist. And a lot of this book got written in 15-minute segments. A lot of what this book taught me was asking for grace around my limitations. I had to get an extension on this book. I've never missed a deadline in my life. And all of a sudden, I had to reach out to my editor and say, it's taken longer than I thought.
Yeah.
And
I
guess
think,
what? The sky did not fall down. I did not get kicked off of planet Earth. She wasn't even mad. She was like, okay, let me know when it's done.
and the key word there is grace.
Yeah,
Grace. And I think that we are so hard on ourselves that it's a necessity to give grace to ourselves, but also to give grace to others, to realize, again, we're human. We are not robots. And this is necessary in order for us to get things done. It just may be in a different timeline and a different path than what you think, quote
that's right.
unquote, is
Right.
ideal or perfect.
Yeah, I sometimes I think a lot of this being a grown-up stuff is really about learning how to be a good parent to yourself.
Good steward.
Because a lot of times, when we were kids, our mistakes were not met with grace or kindness or understanding. They were met with criticism
Yeah.
or blame or punishment or corporal punishment. Sometimes we were punished for not doing anything.
Yeah.
And, we learned our survival skills. We learned to disappear right into thin air, right in front of your very eyes, because
Mm.
that was an important survival skill. And So no surprise, as an adult, we have this like, okay, I'm going to take center stage. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to get my work out there. And then you've got an inner self that's like, oh, I don't think so. Right?
Mhm.
Oh, right. So we got to reparent that part of ourselves that feels how legitimately risky putting yourself out there can be, and is willing to take the hand and say, okay, I get it. You're scared. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
I get it. You're tired. Let's rest and then keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. If this resonates with you guys that are listening out there, I highly recommend checking out her book. It's called The 15-Minute Method, The Surprisingly Simple Art of Getting It Done. Sam, you are definitely a kindred spirit. I hope to have you back on the podcast again soon to talk about other things that are going on in your world and life. I As we wrap up, there are a couple of questions I'd like to ask you that I ask everybody on the podcast. If you're ready, let's go. First and foremost, what books or blogs are you reading these days that is inspiring you or challenging you and poking holes in your belief system?
I usually, like I said, I'm a big reader and I usually have a couple of books going simultaneously. And one of the books I usually have is something I'll read at midday, like when I take a lunch break or a little afternoon break. And it's usually something nonfiction, and it's
Mm.
usually something about something I know very little about. It's that lifelong thing going, kicking in. So I've been reading a book by Sue Rowe called In Montmartre, Picasso, Matisse, and the Birth of Modernist Art.
Mm.
Now, I know very little about art, particularly visual art. I don't know that much about Picasso and Matisse, even I'm a fan, particularly of Matisse, but uh, it's just a wonderful it's sort of light scholarly. I mean, it's not like reading a textbook at all. It's a very lively book, but Gertrude Stein is there and Alice B. Toklas is there, and like what's all Modigliani's hanging around, like all these people in this community. Anyway, I've
That's
been really enjoying reading that.
so cool. And you know what? I think about some of the best days where I have taken a day off and gone to the museum downtown or something like that. I always feel so replenished myself. But how brilliant. Think about the books that are out there. You can much easier open a book about some of your impressionistic art scholars and take 15 minutes to look at that than it is to drive all the way downtown to go to an art museum.
Exactly.
So smart. So tell me, who is one person in your network that you feel is just up to brilliant things? If we could shine a spotlight on them, who knows? Maybe one day we'll have them on the podcast. Who would that be?
Uh, so the first person that popped into my mind when you said that is my friend Linda Sievertson. Linda has a podcast called the Beautiful Writers Podcast, and she interviews writers about writing. So it's often we're on to talk about our books, which is terrific. Very rarely does anybody like sit down and go like, tell me more about your writing process. Tell me more about how you did, like, it's exciting. So she gets really big name writers. Uh, and she's got a book out called Beautiful Writers, a book, and it's her journey as a writer. And then she's got all these other celebrity authors telling their stories. I've never seen a book quite like it. Um, and so if you're a writer and you're struggling, or you're a writer and you're not struggling, I recommend Linda, both her podcast and her book, Beautiful Writers.
Love it. Well, we will link her up in the show notes. And by the way, everything we talked about in today's episode, you can find over at thesimplifiers.com. So it's all there for you. Just look up this episode. Now, I believe simplicity and gratitude go hand in hand. Tell me, what are you grateful for today?
Mm. Right in the second, I'm very grateful that it's a beautiful summer day and not that humid.
Mm.
Because I grew up in Chicago, so I remember humid. But then I spent 30 years living in Southern California,
Hmm.
where it gets hot, but it doesn't get that humid. And now I'm living in Connecticut, and I spend some days just dripping. It's like 3 cold showers a day. It's terrible. So right now I'm really grateful that it's not humid. But the other thing I'm finding myself really grateful for this this mug of tea that feels warm in my hand, and
Yeah.
it has an old scar on it, so it feels
Mm.
especially nice. Like I'm kind of digging these little sensory moments again as a person who can't like go out and go for a run or
Yeah.
go shopping or do a lot of the things that I used to be able to do for fun. I find myself really zeroing in on these tiny little sensory moments.
I love that. So, someone somewhere is listening to you and I right now, and they are knee deep in procrastination and overwhelm and not feeling like their cup is very full at all. What's one thing you could whisper into their ear right now just to encourage them in this moment?
I want you to activate your inner rebel, the part of you that was willing to shock your parents, the part of you that went to Europe with $37 in a Eurail pass with nothing but stars in your eyes and a good idea. Like, there is a part of you that is willful, that is excited, that likes to break things. May not be a very big part of you, but it's in there. And I think sometimes we get this like overwhelmed, exhausted feeling when we're bored, when we've got too many shoulds. We're not overwhelmed, we're underwhelmed. You know, we look at this list of stuff, we're like, ugh, this is so boring. So I really like go ahead and take 15 minutes, just be a badass. Just a little teeny slice of badass.
See what happens.
See
You
what
never know.
happens. You never know.
Sam, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Mary. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.